Robert, Americans love port, but I don't think that a lot of people know all that much about it. So tonight, what I would love if we could demystify some of the, what is port. And so I thought maybe we would start with a little bit of history of not only port itself, but also your family as one of the benchmark families in the industry.
Well, yes, I think sort of the history of port wine and my family are very much connected. Port wine came about because of a slight argument with France, forcing the British to move out of Bordeaux and go to Portugal and try to ship table wine to the United Kingdom. But what happened was we had to fortify it to let it travel on the boat to the United Kingdom. And then came about port wine. And Taylor's comes from this era, Taylor Fladgate, because Taylor Fladgate is the first British port house to be founded in Oporto in 1692. We've been doing this for 8 generations now, so we understand what works and what doesn't.
I think that's important because with port, it's about generations passing from one to the next in order to maintain that house style, which is so important to port. Before we actually talk about the broader styles of port, can you maybe describe what the house style is of each of your family members, Taylor, Fladgate, Fonseca, and Croft?
Yes, so we have 3 wonderful houses here. So Taylor Fladgate, I would say it'd be your more tannic, austere, sort of wonderful structure. I would say this would be like your sort of, if there's a character, I'd say that'd be Audrey Hepburn.
Sophisticated.
Sophisticated, that sort of wonderful pose. If it was a wine, I would say it'd be a sort of a great Bordeaux, because Bordeaux has that sort of pose and structure. And then you go into the Fonseca, very different, it's sort of, we want it different. It's sort of lively, full, dark fruit, luscious, full in the mid-palate. And sort of, I think that liveliness, my mother always said that would be like Marilyn Monroe.
Well, a few more curves.
Yes, and sort of, if that was a wine, sort of a table wine, I'd say that'd be like your big Napa cab. And then we have Croft. Now, Croft has been around for 1588, so it's actually older than Taylor Fladgate. That produces this wonderful sort of ripe berry fruit flavor on the nose, wonderful sort of exotic fruits coming out, lovely, lovely length, and sort of because of the ripe fruit, I would say that would be more almost like a Shiraz, or sort of if you like that tannins there, even a Zin. But I would say as a personality, because it's lively, it's a little bit more modern. I would say Kate Blanchett, because of that breadth of characters that she can sort of bring to the screen.
Well, I think that really well defines the characters that we have in front of us here, and we will get to tasting them. But before we do that, I think what would be very helpful for the people who are here tonight is to get a better understanding of the difference between Ruby, Tawny, LBV, which I know your family created, and vintage.
If you age your port wine in a small barrel, giving it more surface area, more contact with oxygen, that changes the sort of the natural fruit characteristics, the blackcurrants, the strawberries, the raspberries, to those nutty flavors, those walnuts, hazelnuts, caramel. And you're losing 3% of your wine every year, which concentrates it. So when you have a 20-year-old, Taylor Fladgate 20-year-old, it just lasts on your palate for ages and ages. It's a wonderful wine. And that's your aged tawnies.
Right, so that's really the difference between Ruby and Tawny. Great, and then vintage as the finale.
Wow, well, vintage is my favorite, of course. Vintage is the best of what we make. It only comes from our own vineyards, where some of the farmer grapes come from our non-vintage ports. It's 1% of what we make, if that. It's sort of, on average for us, it's about 0.4% of what we make. It's only made when the whole region has perfect weather.
And about how many vintages are declared in a decade?
On average, it's about 3 a decade.
So it really has to be exceptional.
Absolutely.
And actually, speaking of wine, we have 2 glasses in front of us. We have the Tawny on the right-hand side, my right, and the LBV on the left. Will you take us through a little bit of a tasting?
Absolutely. So if you sort of look at the colors of the 2, you can really notice that sort of on your sort of left, you have your sort of ruby port, dark colored. This one is in a large barrel where we've kept oxygen away from the wine, so even without looking at tasting it or smelling it, I know it's going to be fruity. And then this wine over here, this is your 10-year-old Fonseca, and you get this sort of much lighter coloured wine. And here I'm going to expect the nutty flavours.
That's right.
Now in a 10, I will have some of the fruit. So in a 10, I expect to have some of the dried figs, dried apricots. In the Taylor Faldgate 20-year-old, I've lost that. You know, it's all walnuts and hazelnuts.
A labor of love from the vineyard to the final bottle hitting a table, for sure.
It's a wonderful labour of love, and they have to keep us out of the lodge because it would never get to market.
Well, we're going to have a fantastic dinner tonight, and we're so happy to have you here. Do you have any last words for our guests?
I think the quote that comes to mind is from Percy Croft. Any time not spent drinking port is a waste of time.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.